Good morning, everyone. We're live and standing by for your calls for the next 3 weeks. We're out on the road with the police and we need you to help them crack down on crime. Today, mown down on the pavement, the hit and run cyclist who left a woman scarred for life.
Felt like I was hit by a car, the force of it.
Lorry versus bike. How not to be invisible when riding alongside a 10-ton truck. And I'll be meeting the youngest ever Metropolitan Police officer.
You're watching Crimewatch Roadshow. Hello and welcome to the show that takes to the streets of Britain to tackle the crime that affects us all. Also, on today's programme, the helmet-clad thieves who got away with much more than just 40 grand's worth of jewellery.
They robbed me of my sense of security.
And the photographer who went through thousands of images to identify the attacker who bit off part of a man's ear. Can you tell us who he is? The Roadshow team have reached London and today Sian is with the Met at their driving school in Hendon and it looks as though she's arriving in style.
Yes, this is the life, Rav. This Bentley used to belong to Prince Charles, but it's not the car we're interested in today. It's the officers riding two wheels up in front. They're protecting it, and we're going to be finding out how riding side saddle during training helps these guys to make the grade as motorcycle police officers.
Thank you, Sian. Looking forward to that. First up, though, we need your help to track down a runaway cyclist. On the south bank of the River Thames, in the shadow of London's iconic Tower Bridge, lies Bermondsey. Andrea and her husband Patrick have called it home for the last 2 years after moving from Belfast. On Tuesday, April the 14th, the couple had decided to head out to make the most of the evening.
We were going out to eat and it was one of those really just like lovely sunny weather, so we were feeling really good about things.
We just crossed Tower Bridge Road, very busy road, got onto the pavement, and then just really all hell broke loose.
A cyclist, illegally riding on the pavement, ploughed into Andrea.
To me it felt like I was hit by a car, the force of it. I crashed down to the pavement on my face.
Just in a split second, suddenly Andrea was on the ground, face down, with a bicycle and a guy on top of her.
You're all right. He asked me was I okay, and I just was, you know, covered in blood and was, no, I'm not okay.
Not only was she on the ground, just everything, her sunglasses that she'd been wearing, I think they were across the pavement, her handbag was across the pavement. I mean, it was a scene of devastation, really.
There was blood everywhere. I mean, blood was just pouring down my face.
I mean, it was just the worst thing that I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, it was just terrible. It was awful.
Hearing Andrea's screams, a security guard took the pair into a nearby apartment block whilst he rang for an ambulance.
He really took charge where, you know, I wasn't in any position to do anything like that. Patrick was in shock and he was worried about me.
Whilst Patrick made sure Andrea was okay, the cyclist remained outside.
I was mopping up blood from my forehead. I had tissue over my forehead to stop the blood. I knew the cyclist was outside and Patrick was coming and going, and I just said to Patrick, keep an eye on him, because I just felt that everything was centred around me and I thought, he's going to go.
He started wheeling his bike then, and then he got on the bike. And I thought, that's a bit odd. Instinctively, I just started to run after him then to try and match his speed. And then it got to the point, right, he's definitely not stopping. And that's when I started shouting at him to stop and kept running. And he'd got to think about maybe halfway across the square and just turned round, looked at me, smiled, and just took right off.
I just felt that I was like a victim in the accident, and I felt like a victim all over again when he cycled off, and it just seemed so unfair.
Anything could have been happening in the lobby of that apartment building. You know, she could have passed out, she could have died. He didn't know, and apparently he didn't care.
The CCTV footage shows the image of the cyclist that the Metropolitan Police want to speak to in connection with the incident. He's seen here leaving the scene.
If he's watching this, he may not have done the right thing on the day, which was to stay, but he can do the right thing now. So all you have to do is call and speak to us about this incident, OK? That goes for anyone else that may know him, encourage him to come forward, or speak to us as well, independently or anonymously. We really want to hear from you.
I have to live with it for the rest of my life, and it would be nice if he came forward and just took some responsibility. I think he took the card's way out.
In hospital, Andrea spent 9 hours in a neck brace, and she's been left with a permanent reminder.
They're going to be scars with me forever. They're never going to go away. And every morning I wake up and I look in the mirror and, you know, it's still there. It's a reminder of the accident.
The incident has had a far greater impact than she'd ever imagined.
I'm just not confident the way I used to be. 9 years ago, I had breast cancer. I came through it, and it brought back a lot of those memories about facing up to your own mortality.
And Andrea and her husband have put forward a £2,000 Crime Stoppers reward for information leading to arrest and conviction of this cyclist. So if you've got any information, you know what to do. Ring the Crime Stoppers number. Now, this is where newly qualified members of the Met Police come for their passing out parade ceremony. And this year, there was a very special new recruit indeed. We're just about to meet him now. Let me introduce you to him. He is PC VK999 to give him his full rank and number, otherwise known as Malachi Tyler. Malachi, you look so smart. I can tell straight away that you're a police officer in that uniform. How old are you?
7.
Wow, 7. Why did you want to become a police officer?
I dreamt about becoming a police officer.
I'm so delighted your dream came true. Absolutely fantastic. What have you been doing since you've been a police officer?
I pepper sprayed a policeman. I've handcuffed a few constables.
Pepper sprayed a policeman and handcuffed some constables. Well, you're with your boss now, Chief Inspector Glenn Tunstall. He's such a special little boy, Glenn, isn't he? He's
a very special little boy to us from the moment he's come into our police station as a result of his bucket list of wanting to be a police officer and use a police radio. Really, really inspirational, and some huge challenges in his life as well. Malachi has a genetic condition which manifests itself in a number of ways. When he was 14 months old, he had a brain tumour. In treating that tumour, Malachi lost his sight at the age of 2.
But that hasn't stopped you, Malachi, has it, from using radios and meeting all these police officers?
Yeah, and now I have 2 brain tumours.
Oh, I know, and you're doing so well through all your treatment. And do you enjoy coming out and the passing out ceremony?
Yeah.
I bet. What was so special about it?
Because I heard them all marching.
You heard the marching. Did you ever go to the marching yourself?
No. They wouldn't let me because it was all cops and loads of people fainted.
It was a hot day, and well, I'm glad that you didn't faint anyway. If the sun comes out later on, we will let you take your jacket off, OK? Fantastic stuff. Let's come back and meet Malachi a bit later in the programme.
Thank you, Sian. Didn't Malachi look great in his uniform? Now, we all like to feel safe in our own home, but our next victim has been left feeling anything but.
It was sheer terror. They didn't just rob me of treasured and sentimental things. They robbed me of my sense of security.
On the 23rd of April, retired PA Geraldine decided to catch up with the papers, whilst her husband popped to the bank.
I heard a loud noise, and I thought, that's funny, oh, David's back. But when I looked out, I couldn't see the car.
She noticed that the garage door had been left ajar.
I heard voices and rattles, from the garage. And I thought, that's funny.
As she opened her front door, two men emerged from the garage and charged towards her.
And I couldn't hold the door against them. And they grabbed me and said, where's the safe, where's the safe? And they rushed me upstairs and kept saying, quickly, quickly, quickly. It was sheer terror. My first thought was, don't resist them. Because you hear, you know, horror stories of what happens to people in these situations.
Geraldine was dragged roughly by one of the intruders to the upstairs office containing the safe. But in her blind panic, she was unable to help them open it.
I didn't know where the key was, and so I just said, it's in the desk, it's in the desk. And I couldn't think of the number for the safe. And all the time they were shouting at me, this is your last chance, you're going to be stabbed now, you're going to be stabbed now. And I just kept saying, I don't know, I can't tell you, I can't tell you.
The men grew increasingly agitated. Their attention was drawn to the diamond and gold jewellery that Geraldine was wearing.
I couldn't undo the clasp on my bracelet because my hands were shaking so much. And I was saying to them, you take them, you undo them, please, you undo them. So in the end, they just pulled it off me and pulled the rings off.
After stripping her jewellery from her hands, the robbers focused once again on opening the safe.
The guy was holding me, let go, and moved towards the safe.
Geraldine saw an opportunity for escape.
And when he moved there, I tried to run for the stairs, but, you know, it was silly.
One of the robbers pounced on her and dragged her back. Frustrated at not cracking the safe, the men decided to take it with them. They made their getaway with jewellery worth in excess of £40,000.
And I got the phone and I was trying to dial the police, and it took me, well, it seemed like ages before I could actually get the right numbers in.
Hello, police emergency, how can I help?
They wanted the key for the safe and I didn't know where it was, and they were threatening to stab me.
Did you say they grabbed you? I'll get officers on their way.
These men subjected Geraldine, who's in her early 70s, to considerable threats and violence. It was an unbelievably traumatic experience for her, which has left her feeling very upset, very angry, although she has faced it with considerable courage.
I had bruising on my arm, you know, their fingerprints, and they bruised my hand and my finger, getting that ring off.
Beyond her physical injuries, the raid has had a profound effect.
Every morning when I look out, David goes to get the paper every morning, and I'm looking out and I'm thinking, I know it's unlikely that they'll come back, but you can't stop thinking that way.
Police believe the same men may have been seen nearby Geraldine's house the previous night on a black scooter, caught here on CCTV.
Descriptions are difficult because the suspects had their white crash helmets on at all times. They were able to say that they were white males, comparatively young, probably in their 20s. And Geraldine is fairly confident that they had Irish accents.
I feel vulnerable and anxious and wary, and they didn't just rob me of treasured and sentimental things. They robbed me of my sense of security. If you can't feel safe in your own home, where can you feel safe?
Such a terrible crime to happen in your own home, and Geraldine's been left very shaken by this. DC Damien Walsh is with me. They got away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, some high-value jewellery, including expensive watches, a gent's Rolex watch, a gent's Borman Mercier watch, and a lady's Cartier watch, in addition to the bracelet and rings that Geraldine was wearing.
So what can you tell me about the description of these two men, and also, well, how the public can help you with identifying them?
Well, we know there were two white males, both wearing white crash helmets, aged in their 20s, and they had Irish accents. Geraldine is from Ireland, and she's very confident they had Irish accents.
Now, a witness did spot them earlier in the day. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the witness, Branimir, he saw two suspects wearing white crash helmets beside a moped similar to this one, and they'd emptied the contents of the jewellery from the first burglary onto the floor and were going through it.
So they've been involved in another raid earlier in the day. Let's concentrate on this route, though, that they took, because hopefully somebody else will have seen them. Can you go through it?
Yeah, well, the first crime was in Bromley. That's where they smashed the front door in and took jewellery from an upstairs bedroom. They were then seen nearby in a secluded alleyway off Romney Drive in Bromley, and that's where they were seen by Branimir to be going through the jewellery. And from there they travelled to Chislehurst to Geraldine's address. And the previous evening they were seen at a location called the Glebe, which is nearby in Chislehurst.
Okay.
And we believe they were the same suspects.
OK, and if you do recognise any of that, please get in touch.
Thank you, Sian. Still to come this morning. A mother who's only too aware of the dangers of cycling on London streets.
The concrete mixer, he just turned here. She didn't stand a chance.
And the photographer who went through thousands of images to identify the attacker who bit off part of a man's ear. But first, I'm sure you've heard of the great train robbery. Well, this is a miniature version. It all happened at a garden centre in Cheshire just before Christmas, and PC Mike Dorber is here with me now to tell me more. Mike, good morning. Tell us what happened.
Well, burglary occurred at Highley Garden Centre in Knutsford on the evening of Saturday, the 20th of December, whereby the premises was burgled and whoever was responsible stole £7,000 worth of Hornby train equipment similar to this.
OK, now we've got some CCTV of the burglar actually getting into the shop. It's quite dark, so we've highlighted the offender himself. Let's have a look at that. What's happening here, Mike?
As you look at the CCTV, the offender was clearly very well organised in that he cut a hole in the roof immediately above where the Hornby model train equipment was, lowered a ladder inside, and he spent an hour inside the premises. He was methodical in picking the items that he stole, and he stole more than 500 individual pieces of Hornby model railway equipment.
It's a massive amount. Now, they're quite distinctive, aren't they, the sets that were stolen? We've got images of a couple that were taken now on the screen. What's this the green train there?
The offender paid particular attention to the Flying Scotsman railway equipment, and another one called the Flight of the Mallard.
So that's this one here, the blue one?
That's the blue one. These types of model equipment will be very recognisable to people that are a part of the Hornby Railway Collectors Club.
Mm-hmm. And it seems the timing of this theft was no coincidence, bearing in mind the date it occurred.
It was the busiest trading weekend of the year. It was the Saturday, a couple of days before Christmas. The staff inside the premises have restocked the shelves in line for another busy day on the Sunday, and we believe that there was an element of pre-planning in relation to this offence, in that the person responsible...
Very briefly, Mike, who is it you're appealing for today?
I'm appealing for anyone who was offered or came into possession of a large amount of equipment, model railway equipment. There was obviously 500 separate pieces, and I'd also make an appeal to people from the Hornby Collectors Club. If anyone can help us with this appeal, if they could contact us.
Definitely. OK, Mike, thank you. If you have any idea who the burglar is, or as you've heard, were offered any of the stolen items, please do get in touch. Sian.
In London, 600,000 journeys are taken by bike every single day. The Metropolitan Police say they are determined to do all they can to keep cyclists safe. London streets are a scene of organised chaos, with bikes, buses, cars and HGVs all vying for a place on its roads. With ever-decreasing space, sharing the road responsibly has never been so important. Andy Weston is an HGV driver who's been driving for over 20 years.
The problem with London is you've got a lot of tourists. Tourists tend to cross the road and look the wrong way. They don't know where they're going. Everyone's in a hurry in London. The lanes, you can see now, the lane I'm in now, just wide enough for all the lorry. There's no room for a cyclist.
Rebecca Charlton is a cycling journalist who's already been knocked off her bike 3 times in the 5 years she's been pedalling the streets of London.
I've had people not looking pull out of a junction on me and sort of knock me off to the side, and ended up on the floor in a side road once. Another time, 2 vans were fighting to get to a single lane of traffic. Unfortunately, I came off worse. They swiped into me. One of them hit me off to the left. So both times, you know, the drivers weren't really paying attention. They weren't looking out for me as a cyclist.
In an effort to raise awareness, the Metropolitan Police have set up an initiative to help cyclists and HGV drivers understand the challenges that each other face when sharing the roads.
There are hundreds of thousands of cycle journeys taking place in London. We are still getting, last year, 13 people killed on bikes in London. That's 13 too many.
It's well known amongst cyclists that one of the greatest dangers is navigating around trucks. When lorry and bicycle collide, the consequences can be fatal. In June 2000, Alex McVitie was cycling to work in the City of London. She'd just celebrated her first anniversary with her boyfriend and was at the start of a blossoming legal career.
We'd been talking on the Tuesday evening, she'd phoned me, and we'd been talking about the party and what she was going to wear and having her hair done and all that kind of thing.
But one day in June, Cynthia was called into her boss's office to be told the news all parents dread to hear.
There were 2 policemen there and someone from HR, and I thought, why are there policemen here? And they told me that my daughter was dead. I couldn't take it in, you can't. And it's a totally surreal experience. And awful, just awful. So we're coming from that direction, my daughter on the inside and then the concrete mixer, and he just turned here, just pulled out a bit and then turned sharp down there, and she was on the corner. She didn't stand a chance. She was just run over and killed.
For Cynthia, the loss of her daughter is something she will never come to terms with.
She was my only child. She was 26. We'd been together for 26 years. She was the most loved and the most important person in my life.
Alex's tragic death could have been avoided if only the lorry driver had been able to see her.
We can do things, and we should all accept the obligation to do our bit towards preventing these horrific, tragic crashes.
The Exchanging Places scheme has been set up to help HGV drivers and cyclists see things from each other's viewpoint.
We're here to show the positive side as to how to get around these trucks safely in this sort of environment.
First up, a cyclist, Charlie, gets a demonstration on exactly where the blind spots are on a truck.
Keep your eye on the officer behind us with the bicycle here. She is about to walk down the left-hand side of the truck. Here she comes now, at walking pace, in a bright yellow jacket, down the left-hand side of the truck. I've told you she's there. And can you see her?
I can't see her, no. She's gone.
If I open the door, though, she's there. If you imagine she's in the bus lane next to us, that's where she'd be. But what's worrying is that this is where we would be if we were turning left.
It's time for Andy and Rebecca to get to grips with each other's mode of transport.
Blimey!
It's a long way up.
Rebecca gets a trucker's view of the road.
The extent that they can't quite see you is actually quite shocking. There's a lot of areas around where you're entirely invisible. It's pretty terrifying to be that high up and suddenly a rider's come up the inside or just appeared or perhaps still sat in that blind spot.
Now it's time for Andy to swap the safety of his cab for rush hour on 2 wheels.
So here we go, lorry driver on a bike. Launch was successful. It's certainly very daunting. Everything all of a sudden looks very large and dangerous and fast. It is slightly intimidating, I've got to say. Certainly a lot to look out for.
Back in the safety of the park, Rebecca is keen to find out how Andy's enjoyed his ride.
The car suddenly seems really large, suddenly seems really close, and you can hear a bus. You can feel the heat, can't you? The draft from the bus. And you look, and the bus just seems massive.
It's been really, really worthwhile to kind of have a look at this Exchanging Places initiative and just how much impact it's going to make. It doesn't need to be a war out there. We should all be looking out for each other, just standing back, slowing down a little bit. It's not worth saving 30 seconds in the morning and risking, you know, a life.
Well, I'm with Sergeant Simon Castle, who we saw in the film there, and we're inside Arthur, the truck that's actually used in the Exchanging Places programme. Let's put it in context, Simon. 6 fatalities in London alone this year involving cyclists. It's important, this, isn't it?
Unfortunately, every single one of those involved a truck. So we'll need to keep doing this and showing cyclists how to get around these vehicles safely.
OK, so how successful has the programme been so far?
Well, 97% of the participants tell us that they'll change their riding as a result, and 99% say they'll recommend it to a friend.
So that's a positive result so far. Now, listen, I've got this small camera because the whole point that we're up here in Arthur is to see what the drivers see. So looking through the windscreen there, I can see some people in the distance, obviously. I move it along. Obviously, this is what the driver would be seeing from a cab. OK, there's a mirror that I would be checking and some more mirrors. What's the problem?
Well, there's 6 mirrors here. And the truck driver can spend up to 5 seconds checking all those mirrors before they even look ahead. And the problem is, if the cyclist comes into that zone that they've just checked, we've got a bit of a problem.
OK, let's head outside then and we can see actually what it looks like from the ground level. OK, some pretty steep steps here to get down at a bit of a pace. And let's have a look and see what exactly was going on out here. Wow, so we have got all these officers who couldn't really see from the front of the cab at all. But there are some things that lorries do have them on now as well, don't they? New technology.
There's lots of technology. There's cameras and sensors and all that sort of thing. And we're trying to get trucks designed with better direct vision. But for the moment, what we need to do is just move that little bit further away and make eye contact. This area is visible to the driver, but make it a bit easier by moving out and looking up.
Fantastic tip there. And Rav, you're continuing on the two-wheeled theme.
Well, actually, it's a lack of 2 wheels now, as motorcycle theft is on the rise, with over 22,000 bikes being stolen last year. Increasingly, it seems organised crime gangs are stealing bikes to order. And here with me now is Dr. Ken German, who's an ex-cop who has a PhD in international car crime. Ken, good morning. Now, I love my bikes, and if they got stolen, I'd be heartbroken. But bike theft is really big business these days.
Yes, it is, Rav, I have to say. Particularly top-of-the-range super bikes like this, costing £10,000, very vulnerable.
So how are the gangs going about finding the bikes that they actually want to steal?
They target a bike, they'll find out where it's parked, and then go around and steal it. They put it in the back of a van, and quite often they're halfway across the channel in a ferry before they get reported stolen.
You had one recently in Lithuania you were aware of very, very quickly. They got over there.
That's right. It was traced all the way through the various countries to Lithuania, where fortunately it was the tracking device was able to have the man arrested.
Yeah, good. Now, there are some unusual methods of stealing bikes. We can see an image here. It looks, at first glance, pretty OK to me, but it's actually not at all. Tell me what's happening here.
2 thieves on 2 stolen bikes. One on the left is a scooter, and if you see his right foot, he's actually pushing the stolen superbike along. That superbike, the engine isn't going on that. What they're doing, they've just moved it. It wasn't locked. They pushed it forward, and he's pushing it through traffic.
They've gone some distance there as well, haven't they? Now, what can you do if your bike is stolen?
Well, fortunately, we've got 13,000 bikes missing from last year, and to be quite honest with you, it's very difficult for police to turn up and actually investigate these things when there's no evidence, there's no prisoners, there's no evidence to gather. So I suggest the new technology is this.
So prevention is obviously the best thing we can do. And briefly, Ken, we've got a few examples here. There's something here called a sort of DNA paint. How does that work?
Yes, it's invisible. You apply it, it's invisible when you put it on there, and you can actually see it with a UV lamp.
Okay, so that's there, and how could someone go about getting that?
Well, it's readily available to all motorcycle shops, so, but you can apply it to most things, I have to say. And it's invisible, as I say, and we'll have a microchip in it as well. Both will give you the identity of the owner.
OK, and very, very briefly, Ken, the best thing to do is get your bike secured to the ground or a fixed point if possible, because if they can't lift it up, they can't take it away. And that's what you'd always say to people, isn't it? Great advice. Thank you very much for joining us today, Ken. But for now, let's go and see what Sean's up to.
Rav, police drivers need to be ready for every eventuality, and that means that they need a lot of specialist training. Well, I'm with Sergeant Jim Widdicks now, and Jim, they tell me you can drive all of this little lot.
I can, Sean, but obviously not at the same time.
OK, I'm very pleased to hear about that. What about the bus, though? Why would you need to drive that?
Well, we may have traffic officers that need to reconstruct an accident if it's been involved in, so they will need to drive it, or possibly in a hostage situation, we might want to put one of our officers driving a bus to get the people out safely rather than involve a civilian.
OK, so we've got some of the students here on the motorbikes. Talk me through what they're doing, because this is all part of the training, isn't it?
Absolutely. They're doing something called confidence riding, because the bikes are quite big, quite heavy, so we get them riding the bike in an unusual style initially, standing up on the seat, maybe side saddle, so when they sit back down, it feels a bit normal and less frightening.
OK, well, they seem to be doing a great job. Let's go and talk to one of them. Emma, sorry to pull you out of training there. Why did you want to be a motorcycle cop then?
Oh, from the minute I passed my own bike test, I absolutely love riding a bike, so it's a dream come true for me to ride one of these.
So what do you use it for in your job every day?
Well, I'm part of a motorcycle safety team, so actually every day we're out in London, we stop bikes, speak to riders, and we try and give them advice on how to ride safely.
OK, well, just looking at this, I mean, some of them, look, they're up there, the knees on the top, some of them sticking their hands out. That looks difficult. Why have you got to do that?
It is difficult, but it's all about gaining confidence on a bike. It's not just being able to ride a bike, it's being able to direct traffic and point to things at the same time.
Well, I have to say, it looks really impressive. Not anything I'm going to have a go at, certainly. Rav, I think you'd be good at this, though.
Oh, yes, please. Now, let's see if you can help us identify the crooks who made the mistake of committing their crimes on camera. And just to warn you, some of these are violent.
It's a month before Christmas, and an elderly couple are taking out money to pay for presents. But they're being watched. A man in a diamond-patterned jumper loiters in the building society until the pensioners are ready to leave. Then he ducks out. He follows them into a nearby shop where he meets an accomplice, a bald-headed man wearing a black body warmer. Unaware, the couple in their 80s return to their car and load their shopping. That's when the men strike. One distracts them by asking for directions. The other hangs back and, when no one is looking, reaches into the boot and plucks the cash from the woman's handbag. Straight away, she knows something's wrong and finds the £700 is gone. Several bystanders notice her distress, including one who brings out a chair. Now it's your turn to do a good deed. Pick up the phone and tell us who these Christmas crims are. These would-be robbers plan to clean up by raiding a laundrette in south-east London. One's armed with a large knife. The second has a handgun. The gun, which could be an imitation, is aimed at the man behind the counter, while the knife is held at the other assistant's neck. Both robbers are shouting, "Give me the watch, give me the money." They might look as hard as nails, but the pair run for it when one of the victims says he's dialing 999. A camera films their getaway on a dark blue or black moped along Pilgrimage Street in Southwark. They wore helmets throughout, but someone knows these moped muppets. Wigan Wallgate Station in mid-January, and an employee arrives at work on an expensive set of wheels. She cycled from home on a red and white specialised hard rock bike worth 1,800 quid. She wheels it through the booking office to a storeroom, but police say she's being watched through the window. She forgets to lock the door, giving this chancer the opportunity to waltz in and nick the bike. And look how he leaves. Cheeky blighter. Police say he hands the bike to another man, then boards the number 600 bus outside Wigan North Western Station 8 minutes later. At 3:05, he gets off at Edge Green Lane in Golborne, 5 miles from Wigan. Get an eyeful of this bike bandit. You won't get better than that.
You can call us on 08000 468 999. Calls are free from most landlines. Some network and mobile operators will charge for these calls. Or you can text us on 63399. Text CW, space, and then your message. Text will be charged at your standard message rate. Of course, you can email us as well. The address is cwr@bbc.co.uk.
Next, the hunt for the attacker who bit off part of a man's ear, and the photographer who trawled through 2,000 images to try to find him. This one's nasty.
The Oxford and Cambridge boat race takes place in West London. With 250,000 people lining the banks of the Thames, it's the biggest day of the year for the riverside suburb of Putney. On this sunny Saturday in April, the streets, bars and restaurants were jam-packed with people. Charlie was heading out to celebrate with a group of friends.
It was a friend of mine's baby shower. Baby was due sort of 3 or 4 weeks' time, so it was his last sort of day out before going on baby watch. So we went up to the city for brunch and then made our way down to towards Putney to watch the boat race. It was reasonably sunny, lots of people out. It was very busy, as you might expect, and then moved on to one of the bars just off the river.
The group found themselves in a crowded bar.
It was good fun. I mean, there was sort of 4 or 5 of us then in the bar. We got talking to a group of others.
The bar was packed with boat race fans, and a club photographer was busy clicking away, taking pictures of the revellers to publicise the bar and capture the party atmosphere. Charlie got chatting to a group of girls and decided to step outside with one of them for some fresh air.
As I walked out, first time I became aware of the chap, he was kind of on my right-hand side in front of me and said something. I had no idea what it was. It was a very loud bar. So in the manner that you can't hear someone, I leant in to hear what was being said. Obviously, when you first lean in, you come closer than you might naturally. And then it was shock when he carried that on further and went closer and bit my ear. I think my initial reaction was very much push him off, and I took a swing for him, by which point he was pretty much on his way to the door.
The bearded man had bitten down hard on Charlie's ear before making a run for it.
First things you think is, what did I do? Why me?
CCTV shows the man fleeing past the bouncers on his way out of the bar.
At the time, I wasn't particularly aware of the damage to the ear at all, to be honest. I mean, I was aware there was some blood, but I wasn't aware there was anything missing. And it was actually only outside when we were talking to the bouncers, and I got bandaged up, wrapped up, and was saying to them, it's absolutely fine, it's not a problem, there's no need for an ambulance for me, I'll go home, I'll go get it sorted tomorrow, next day. I think the bouncer's comment was actually, no, but you don't actually realise quite how much is missing. At which point, obviously, took a photo and showed me.
Charlie lost a significant part of his ear in the attack and spent 2 days in hospital whilst undergoing reconstructive surgery.
The outer lip of the ear is missing. There's been a point left at the top of it. Surgeon actually did a very good job in the very neat stitching, folding it all over and stitching it up. If you're looking at it, it's definitely noticeable that there is a reasonable proportion of it missing.
It is a very serious incident in which the victim, seemingly unprovoked, has been attacked in quite a vicious way. The bar have been extremely helpful, the management of the location. They've asked their photographer who was there, now it was an event, there was a photographer there all night, who's literally been asked to look through thousands of photographs and has found this image of our suspect, who we'd very much like to speak to.
The bar photographer captured 2 remarkably clear images of the man police believe is behind the attack that severed 1/3 of Charlie's ear.
Someone is going to know what he's done. Someone is going to know why he's done it. And I would like to know why.
Yes, do please give us a call if you do recognise this incredibly clear image. Now, some more quality photos to have a look at with today's Wanted Faces. And first up is this man here. This is Joseph Gregory. He's wanted by police in Lancashire in connection with an aggravated burglary where armed men burst into the victim's home and demanded money. Gregory, who speaks with a northwest accent, has friends in Blackpool and nearby Poulton. And he has family in Spain. And just in case he forgets that Gregory is his surname, it's helpfully tattooed on his right arm. Or do you know where police can find this man? This is Raja Majid Mehboob. and he's been wanted since 2002 in connection with an allegation of rape. He sometimes sports a goatee beard, and he's got wide-ranging ties from Thames Valley, Bedfordshire, London and Bradford to his home country, Pakistan. Next, Greater Manchester police need your help to find this man. This is Abdul Qudus. He's wanted in connection with a vehicle business which is believed to have scammed 46 people across the UK out of more than £97,000. Qudus has lived in London, Bolton and the Eccles area of Greater Manchester. And our last wanted face for today is this fella. This is Mark Anthony Fitzgibbon. He was jailed for 8 years for drug dealing back in 1999, but when he was released, he didn't stick to his probation terms and has now been on the run for over 10 years. Fitzgibbon may be working as a bouncer and personal trainer in southern Spain. So, if you recognise any of these faces, make sure you call the numbers on your screen right now. Let's go back to Sean.
Now, one of the things that police get involved with are pursuits like these. Of course, what they need to do is to stop the chase as quickly and as safely as possible, and that's where one of these comes in, isn't it, Jim? What is it?
Absolutely, it's called a Hosted. It's a tyre deflation system which brings the car to a halt hopefully quicker, so we can box it in and get it all done nice and safely.
So, Corder Stinger, normally what, the spikes on this?
Yeah, normally this is a training one. Normally there's spikes on there and it just deflates the tyre in a controlled manner so that we can then get round and box the car in.
OK, so I'm going to... Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for it. Oops, how did I do with that? So that's now in position.
So we
want to see whether a car will be coming round, and what the idea is
so after the bad guy's gone through, pull it back in. Right now, pull it back in, pull it back in. Oh, well done.
I just about managed to do that.
Absolutely.
So, a tricky thing to do, and one that obviously a lot of training is required for, I know. So thank you for putting me through my paces this morning. And I feel like I've achieved something there, Ralph.
Well done, Sean. Just some updates on how your calls are helping now. We've already had some good information through on those 2 linked burglaries in Chislehurst by men on a moped, which we showed you earlier, including a possible sighting of the 2 stolen watches. Also, some potential names for the man who robbed and injured a pensioner in Wickersley in South Yorkshire, leaving her with those horrible injuries. That was on Friday's programme, you'll remember. And finally, thanks to your calls, officers from the Met have arrested Hayden Joseph, who was featured on last week's Faces board. He was wanted for questioning in connection with the burglary and handling of stolen goods. So thank you for that. Sean, tell us where you're going to be tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Rav, I will be at Heathrow's Animal Reception Centre, following the work of the UK Border Forces. They tried to halt endangered species coming into the country, looking at everything from pickled chameleons to rhino horns. But for now, from me and the team here, particularly little Malachi, what do we say? Bye-bye!
Thank you, Sean. And little Malachi, of course. Now, if you'd like to watch any of the CCTV featured in today's programme, again, just head to our website. You'll also find details about all of our wanted faces, and I'm going to leave you with another look at them right now. Somebody out there knows where these people are. If that's you, then please do call us. Thank you for watching, but until tomorrow, do take care. Bye-bye.